Hello and welcome everyone. In this lecture, we will be diving into one of the Python's most powerful and flexible data structures, the dictionary. Now, this is part of a larger series designed specifically to help .NET developers leverage Python for data science. Now, if you have worked with dictionary TK-T-value in C#, you'll feel right at home. Python's dictionaries serve the same purpose, mapping keys to values using in this curly braces, but as we'll see, Python's syntax is often more concise and dynamic. Okay. And the keys are immutable, means that they cannot be changed, and flexible values. So, what is a dictionary? A dictionary in Python is a collection of key value pairs enclosed in curly braces. Keys must be unique and immutable. Values can be of any type. Okay, any Python object. Now, flipping over to Visual Studio Code, this is how the dictionary is defined in Python. So, person dictionary, person is a dictionary with key and value. Key value pair, name, age, email, is member. So these are keys are immutable, but values can be any object. Values are mutable. And print person. So if you run this, so you get the dictionary printed with key and value, name Alice, age 30, and etc. etc. Now let's see the equivalent example in C#. Define dictionary.csx. Okay. So this is the var person equals new dictionary and string and object. Okay. Object could be of any object type. It could be string as well as an integer as well as a boolean. Okay. So console.writeLine dictionary created. So let's run this application also. One thing I need to remind you that, this C# scripts can be, saved as .csx file or .cs file. Both will run the same way in .NET script. So now I'm running this one. Dictionary created. Okay, so in this console.writeLine, I'm just writing dictionary created. So I haven't still got to write the key value, unlike the define dictionary.py. Okay, so which will come later anyway. So why wait till some other time? So I have just modified the console.writeLine to give you the actual dictionary that has created. Dictionary created with entries, name, person, name, age on person. Person is the dictionary created. The age value, age key, email person, email key, is member person with the is member key. Now I got this similar answers to the Python output. However, you can see that Python output was far simpler to get the same things. Here we got name, age, email, and is member true. But Python is much more flexible and easy to write and understand. Okay. Now, next is accessing values safely. Now, there is a direct access on the dictionary with the key this is square braces, square brackets. Within square brackets, the key, direct access, and there is a dict.key, dict.get. Get is the function where you pass the key and the default for a safer method of accessing values, which we'll see in a bit, and optional fallback values, and it avoids key error exceptions. This is the example in Python. The person has got a name, Alice, and email at this one, and then direct access is I'm accessing the person's name, direct access, and then this is the safe access, person.get email. If it is there, it will be provided. If it is not, then it is not provided. And person.get phone, if it is there, it will be there. It is not there, it will not crash, but it will say not provided. So let's run this application, run this Python code snippet. So you can easily see that I got this first one as Alice. Email was provided, so email was actually found out, displayed, and this is not provided. There is no phone in this person dictionary, so it is not provided. So there is a fallback value, default fallback value not provided. Okay, let's clear the screen. So next thing in the agenda is adding and updating entries. So dict key, if you assign it to some value, it will add or update. And the same syntax for insert and modify. This is my Python relevant code snippet file add_update.py. So person is again the same object with name and age. There is no email and phone, but here I am actually adding a location, person location, New York, and person age. Here I am updating it to 31 and then print person. And let's run this code snippet. So you can easily see that this New York is added, new location is added, a location is added rather, and the age is updated from 30 to 31. Right? Coming back to the last of the slides, removing and popping keys. So del dictionary with key removes the entry, and dict dictionary.pop with the key inserted removes and then returns. Okay, so here is this file, delete del pop.py. This script demonstrates how to delete and pop items from a dictionary. So this is again the person dictionary, name, email, and is member. So I'm operating it with del person is member. And then email is equal to person.pop email, and then print removed email. It will print removed email as this, and then print person. So you will find that is member is also deleted with the delete keyword, and pop also removes email, but it first prints it. So let's run this application. So you can see removed email is alice@example.com and name is Alice. The person has got only the name element left because email and is member are already removed. Next, in this example, which is a list example A2, derived features, we'll generate perfect squares under 1000. And for Python, it is n and n square if square root test. And in C#, it will be range plus where plus select. We'll now switch over to Visual Studio Code and see these examples and explain. Just understand how it generates the perfect squares under 1000. Okay. So I have run this example and you get this answer. Now this line, this line builds a list of tuples n square, and it loops through numbers 1 to 999, and keeps only those numbers or those n that are perfect squares. That is, their square root is an integer, and pairs each with its square. Okay, and this prints only the first 12 tuples from the list squares. The slice :12 means start at the beginning and stop before index 12. So now I have run this script perfect squares _2.csx, and you get this tuples, 1, 1, 4, 16, 9, 81, 16, 20, 16, 256, and 25. And you can see that this is a tuple of the number and its square. So let's see the explanation. So the big picture in this piece of code is it generates numbers 1 to 999 and filters to keep only those numbers that are perfect squares and their square root of n is an integer. That is a perfect square. So their square root is also an integer, and projects each number to a tuple n and n square. Okay, and then materializes the result as a list, and then prints the first 12 tuples as a preview. So as a recap of this C# example, here I am building a list of perfect squares. So I start with the numbers 1 through to 999 and filter to keep only those where the square root of those number is an integer. So that's what perfect square means. And then I map each of the number to the pair n and n square. Finally, I take the first 12 results to get a quick preview instead of spamming the console. So previewing with the take 12 in C# or which is equal to this one, colon 12 in Python keeps the focus on the idea, not on pages of output. Okay. So we now see the list of example A3, which is flattening nested lists. So this is the general syntax: flatten grid with X for row in grid for X in row. It will be clear in a second. And C# is the SelectMany equivalent. We'll see both these examples in Visual Studio Code and try to understand it. Okay, so let's switch over to Visual Studio. So I've got this Python example first in front of me. Now this file contains a list comprehension example that flattens a grid, which is a list of lists. Okay, it takes a grid of varying lengths. So this is varying length lists. This is length 3, length 2, and this is just single element, and produces a single flat list containing all elements. So once I run this application, run this code, Python file, it comes up to be a flat list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can again run it, and it is as per expected. So what happens here is the iteration order is from left to right for row in grid. Okay. And then for X in row. So for each row, we iterate items and return X. Now this results a single flat list, and it keeps the nesting shallow. Okay. Now let's see the C# equivalent and try to understand that also. So C# equivalent is flatten grid.csx. So I have now run this example .NET script flatten grid 03.csx, and I get the same result as we got in the Python case. So let's understand. Now grid is a list of lists. Okay, just like Python's this one, which just we saw. Python's this. Okay, list of lists. So going back to here. Okay, so select many, row goes to row, row goes to rows, is the LINQ operation that flattens the nested sequence, and list actually renders it. So select would give you back a sequence of sequences. Now select many instead takes each inner list or each inner row, this is our inner rows. These are actually lists. New way of denoting. You could have written new list also here, but new with pair of circular brace will automatically be understood as it is a new list. Okay, so SelectMany takes each inner list and expands it into a single continuous sequence. And this to list, it materializes the result, giving a flat list of integer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then string.join. And this statement flat prints the flattened numbers in a readable way. Now let us see how to invert a dictionary in Python and C#. Dictionary, inverting a dictionary means, we are, in this case, we are mapping users to roles, but after inversion, it will be roles will be mapped to users. Okay, so this is how the code looks like, and if we run this code, it will be clear. So I've run this code, invert mapping 04.py, and it gives me an answer. Editor Bob admin in Alice and Kara. So what happens? Now initially you got this user Alice has got a role admin, Bob has got a role editor, Kara has also got a role admin. Now after the inversion, it has become, roles are now mapped to users. So editor role is mapped to editor user, that is Bob, and admin role is now inverted to Alice and Kara. So again, why this is called inverting a dictionary? Because the keys and values simply swap their roles. The before case was the user was the key, role was the value. User was the key and role was the value. And afterwards, after the operation, role becomes the key and users that had that role becomes the values. Since multiple users can share the same role, the values in the inverted dictionary becomes lists of users instead of single values. Okay, the inverting here simply means that flip the mapping direction from user to role into role to users. So now let's see the invert mapping C# example. Now here also you get the similar answers. I have now run this .NET script, invert mappings 04.csx. So you've got in the admin role, you've got Alice and Kara are two users. Okay, and editor is just got Bob. Now I believe that this C# code script merits a thorough explanation. So let's do the step-by-step explanation for everyone to understand. Now role users is user role. Now this is our original dictionary. Okay, so this is the user role. So this is a new dictionary of string and string key and string value. So Alice is the key and admin is the value, Bob is the key, editor is the value, Kara is the user, and admin is the value. So user to role. Now here, if we treat it by GroupBy, KV goes to KV.value. So KV stands for key value pair in the dictionary and KV.value is the role. Okay, so because user is the key and this is the role, KV.value is the role. Okay, this groups all entries by their role. So example groups admin, Alice admin and Kara admin and editor, Bob editor. Now .toDictionary, it converts each group into a dictionary entry. So g.key, this is the group's key, that is the role, like admin or editor becomes the new dictionary key. Okay, and then from each group, g.select, from each group extract the original dictionary key, the users. So for admin, it collects Alice and Kara. Alice and Kara for admin. And for editor, it collects Bob. So result is role of users. Now you have inverted the dictionary from user to role to user. Role, these are the two roles and the corresponding users of these roles. Okay.